Hello, 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 hello. First of all, thank you, Mario, for requesting this video. I'm going to start shouting y'all out if you want me to when you request something. If you don't want me to, I won't say shit. I'd just be like, I came up with it on my own. Anyway, thank you, Mario, for requesting this. And thank you to returning subscribers if you're new here. My name's Sarah, and this is Coco right here. She's in every video. We're going to talk about Screwdriver Red, as you can tell by the title. And I kind of didn't know how I wanted to structure the video because there's so much that I need to tell you. So I said, you know what? We're just going to start at the beginning. We're just going to start at the beginning. So our story starts in 1993. We're going to call this lady Victim A. Victim A is addicted to crack, and she pays for it by doing sex work. So that night, she had a date with a guy, with a trick, with a John, whatever you want to call him, at the Mormon church in Denham Springs. So that's where they were going to meet. It goes down. She meets him, gets in his truck. They have some conversation, and somehow shit goes sideways. And the next day, somebody finds her body in the parking lot of the Mormon church in Denham Springs. And here come the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab and the detectives. She's got no ID on her. Like I said, she's got no ID, so they don't know who she is. She's got no ID on her. They do find some strawberry blonde hairs in her hand. And that is not the color of her hair. So they know it didn't come from her. But they do know that she did put up a struggle to have them hairs. It's like, you know what? I hope she beat his ass real good before he shot her. Because he shot her 3 times in the back. They do an autopsy, and they find out that she was shot with a .38 special revolver, and they have the hair in her hands. So they do the ballistics on the bullets, just in case for later, you know, later on if they come across something similar. And they also keep the hair for DNA purposes. Her murder is not solved for 16 years. So just keep her in the back of your mind because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her later. Name and everything. In 1995, a girl that works at Cortana Mall, I'm going to put a picture up of Cortana Mall. It's like during Christmas time. And the policy of the mall is the workers have to park like as far out as they can so that the shoppers can have the prime parking spots. And so the girl's closing for the night, and she's walking out to her car like she does, and she gets in to leave, and she's like, shit, I have a flat tire. She's like, God. And these are the days where, like, you know, not everybody had a cell phone, so she's like, shit, I'm gonna have to walk 2 miles to a payphone. Yeah, I remember payphones. Oh my gosh. I think I got my first cell phone in 95. I did. Anyway, so she's like, oh, I'm about to walk 2 miles to a payphone. That sucks, you know, because it's probably cold. She's got a flat tire. She just wants to go home. Well, all of a sudden, she sees this nice looking guy, about 5'10", lean. She said that he had like a really, really nice smile. That was what really stood out to her, was he had a really nice smile, and he was just like, are you okay? Do you need some help? And she's like, no, I have a flat tire. I've got to go call, you know, and he's like, I can fix your tire for you. And she's like, no, you don't have to. And he's like, no, really, I don't mind. So he fixes her tire. And she tries to pay him. Like, she's like, can I at least give you like $10 or something? And he's like, no. He's like, but can you just drive me like around the mall to where my truck is? That way I don't have to walk over there since the mall's closed. And she does not even think twice. She's like, he looks so nice and so innocent and has such a nice smile. I'm gonna do it. Get on in my car. I'll bring you around to your truck. Come on. When they get to the other side of the mall and there is no truck, she said she started to get a little uneasy. So she's like, can you get out of my car? Because I'm real uncomfortable now that you don't even have a truck. He put the screwdriver to her neck and he says, bitch, drive. So she drives. And he takes her from Cortana Mall to 4-H Club Road. So he's basically taking her from East Baton Rouge Parish to Livingston Parish. And now in Louisiana, we have parishes, not counties. So when I say parish, it's like a county. We just are weird and say parishes. So, and I'm gonna put a map up too of like where Cortana is in relation to 4-H Club Road. So, but back then in 1995, at that time of night, they could have made it from Cortana to 4-H Club Road in like 5 to 7 minutes. Like, it's not very far. And back then, in 1995, 4-H Club Road was so rural that it was like flat land, no street lights, none. A house maybe every couple of miles. She had to have been terrified. And what's even more terrifying is the entire time she's driving from the mall to 4-H Club Road, he's telling her exactly what he's going to do to her. So he's telling her, I'm going to SA you and I'm going to torture you and I'm going to kill you and this is how I'm going to do it and this is what I'm going to do before I do it, and just evil. So, and y'all, back then, you'd be lucky if you came across somebody else on 4-H Club, like another car on 4-H Club Road, because it was that rural. But miraculously, they came across another car. So she's driving and she sees headlights coming towards her. And she's thinking like, yes, indeed. And he's telling her, don't you dare do anything stupid. Don't do it. Don't do anything stupid. And she's like, I'm not going to do anything. And she sees the headlights coming closer and closer. It's a truck. And right when it gets up on her, she jerks the wheel in front of it. So the truck has to stop. And she flies out of her car and over to this truck. And she's crying and she's screaming. I can't imagine. And it's a married couple. And of course, they're like, you know, come get in with us. We'll call the police. So her attacker's like, fuck, I'm caught. So he gets into the driver's seat of her car and takes off. They get his ass somehow. Good police work. I don't know. They put him in a lineup. She picks him immediately. And they're like, all right, okay. They go to interrogate him. And he just like freely admits it. He's just like, yeah, I do. Yeah. And they're just like, why? And he's like, I saw her at the mall and I thought she was cute. So, like, I stalked her for a little while and I, you know, like punctured her tire with a screwdriver so she'd have a flat tire. And then I could be her hero because I changed it. And then I just kind of went along with it. And then I decided I was going to kidnap her because she was just so pretty. I just wanted her. What? Anyway, so he's charged with aggravated kidnapping and attempted murder. When the DA and the defense attorney get together, the DA is
like, let me look at your record.
This is the DA looking at his record.
I see you have no priors. I see that you have nothing. You have no history of criminal activity that we know of.
so they give him a plea deal. They drop it down to simple kidnapping and no attempted murder. So they offer him 7 years, and he's like, I'll take it. Well, when he goes in front of the judge for his formal sentencing, the judge is like, oh, well, I see that you don't have any prior criminal activity on your record. So I'm going to suspend 5 of those years. So you just go ahead and just do two years behind bars. That'll be good enough. That's good. We'll suspend the other 5. You can just do those on probation. So yeah, this man goes to jail for 2 years. And while he's in there, he apparently just having a good old time up in jail. He's just making friends. He must be a psychopath, because apparently he's like very charismatic, because he just makes friends like that. And we're talking about he's in there for kidnapping a woman. They don't like that shit in jail. But I don't know. He made a bunch of friends. Got the nickname Screwdriver Red while he was in there. He loved that name. Oh my goodness, he was so proud of that name. Reminder, if you like sick and twisted stories and don't mind a little cussing, because if I talk I'm going to cuss, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. So Screwdriver Red, he's now remarried to Darlie, lives in French Settlement, seems to be staying out of trouble for the most part. On February 1st of 2007, the cops get a call for a missing girl. She just happens to live in the house directly in front of Screwdriver Red's house, whose real name is Mark Lewis. Screwdriver Red's real name is Mark Lewis. I might as well go ahead and tell y'all that. I was going to do like a big reveal, now we go ahead and tell you. His real name is Mark Lewis. So, Kaitlin had a schedule, and she did not deviate from the schedule, y'all. She went to French Settlement High School. She was a freshman, 13 years old. She was a baby, okay? A baby. So, she would get off the school bus. She would go inside, call her mom, do her homework, and then her mom would get home. It was just her and her mom. They were real close. Miss Danette talked to Kaitlin when she got off the school bus, and then they made plans to get ice cream, and then she called her again around 4 o'clock, and she didn't get an answer. She's like, She said she immediately knew something was wrong, because she said Kaitlin didn't go anywhere without her phone, and it just was not like her to not answer, especially her mom's phone call. So she got a neighbor, not shitbag Mark Lewis, but a different neighbor, to go and check and see if they saw Kaitlin there. So the neighbor goes over there, and they see her book sack. That's there, but no Kaitlin. So the neighbor's like, okay, I see like her stuff that she came home from school with, but she's not here anywhere. I don't see her cell phone. I don't see anything. So her mom was like, no. So she calls 911, and she's like, I will meet y'all at the house. Something's wrong. And that's like home to meet the cops, right? So the cops show up, and French Settlement's one of those like small towns, like everybody knows everybody's business. So word gets out like immediately that Kaitlin's missing. One of the detectives that was meeting Miss Danette at her house, he got a call from a guy named Craig Semino, and he was like, so something weird just happened. And the detective's like, well, tell me. And he said, my best friend's name is Mark Lewis, and he said, I was sitting on my couch, like just, relaxing after work or whatever. And he drove up in my driveway. Like I saw his truck drive up in my driveway. And he said, so I was like, oh, okay, that's Mark. He said, and I was just watching TV. And then I realized in a couple minutes, like, where the hell is he? Like, why is he not coming inside? Like, what's going on? He said, so I threw some shoes on and went outside. And he said, now as I was walking down my driveway, and Mark looked up and saw that I was coming towards him. He said, like, he just went white as a sheet and looked like he was about to cry. And he hurried up, jumped in his truck, and like tore out of Craig's driveway so fast that he almost went in the ditch. He almost fucked up and hit the ditch. And this was like 4:40. So the cop's like, that's strange. Okay, thanks. Mark calls Craig back, say 6:30. He was like, look, the scratches that you saw on my face, because he had scratches on his face. He said, I got in a fight at work. So, you know, it's like no big deal. But that's not what I'm calling for. What I'm calling for is, you know, Kaitlin that lives in front of me, you know, her, the one that I'm related to by marriage, that one? Yeah. Okay. Well, she's missing, and I don't want the cops to like think that I did anything. So if you could just like give me an alibi from, say, I don't know, 4 o'clock to like 6:45, that would be fantastic. And Craig's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And Mark's like, thanks. And he's like, yeah, okay. So Craig, thank God, he was a good person. He gets off the phone with Mark Lewis, immediately calls the same detective. You know, he now knows that detective is like working Caitlin's case, and he's like, Mark just called again and asked me to give him an alibi from 4 o'clock to like 6:45. So I don't know what's going on with him. And the detective's like, can you go to the police station and like make a formal statement? Like, we need you to do like a formal written statement about this. And he's like, no problem. You know, I'll go right now. Around 7 p.m., Mark Lewis gets home, and he walks up and he sees Miss Danette and his wife Darlie talking. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And Darlie's like, Caitlin's missing. He's like, what? Oh my gosh, I hope everything's okay. And then he just goes into the house, not saying anything to the cops that are there. But he also doesn't know that the cops have been talking to Craig Semino. The cops that are there are like, we're gonna run inside and talk to him real quick, because they know what's going on. And when they make it inside, Mark is like just sitting at the table, just sipping some sweet tea. Like, what's up? And so the detectives are like, can we talk to you for a minute? And Mark's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Just cool as a cucumber. And one of the detectives said that because they live in a trailer, the kitchen was like, he was sitting at the kitchen table like right here, in the washer and dryer like right here, and it sounded like he had like shoes in there or something. It was so loud when they were trying to talk to him. And so they asked him like, what happened to your face? And he told them, because remember he told Craig Semino he got to fight. He told the cops that he was hooking something up at work to a trailer hitch, and it popped back and hit him in the face. So the cops are like, well, so where'd you go today? And he's like, well, I went to work, and then after work I went and saw my mom at the hospital, and then after visiting with my mom, I went to my best friend Craig Semino's house and watched a movie. And they were like, what movie did you watch? And he was like, I don't remember. I don't remember. And then I came home. And then so the dryer goes off. Ding, ding. And Mark pulls out this comforter from the dryer. And because it's a trailer, like you can see through, you know, from one end to the other. And they see him go put the comforter on the guest bedroom bed. And one of the detectives, genius idea, was like, he told the other detective, he was like, go ask his wife who does the laundry. Ask her if Mark ever does laundry, like for any reason. The cop goes out there and he asks Darlie, like, hey, does Mark do laundry? Like, for any reason at all? Does he do laundry? Like, who does laundry? And she's like, no, I do all the laundry. I don't even think he knows how to do laundry. And he said, okay, so he didn't ever do it for any reason. She's like, no, I'm being serious when I tell you, like, I don't think that he knows how to do laundry. And while I was out there, he asked Darlie, he's like, what is Mark's relationship like with Kaitlin? And she's like, well, I mean, it seems fine. Like, he has 2 daughters, and every time they come over, Kaitlin comes over and they all play together. So she's like, but one thing weird that we have noticed, anytime Mark takes the girls and Kaitlin somewhere, Kaitlin always sits in the front. Like, he always has her sit in the front seat next to him while his girls sit in the back seat. So, like, she never sat in the back seat, and they thought that was, like, kind of weird. The detective goes back in to tell the other detective that had the genius idea to ask about the laundry and tell them all of this. So they're like, we gotta take another look at you, Mr. Mark Lewis. Just ask him. They're like, do you mind coming to the station to talk to us a little bit more? You know, there's some distractions around here, you know, with everybody looking for Kaitlin, and so, like, maybe it'd be less distracting if we just talked there. And to their surprise, he was like, sure, I'll go. And when they get there, you know, he talks to them for hours, and, you know, they're trying all their tactics and just to try to get him to say anything. He's still just lying his ass off, thinking that they're buying it. And they finally just drop it on him. They're like, look, we know you're full of shit. Like, Craig Semino has told us everything. He's come in, he's written his statement telling us everything. And we also know that you didn't go see your mom today. We know you didn't go to work because you called in sick. About the time they're fixing to arrest him for obstruction of justice, Darlie shows up at the police station. And they're like, you know what? What if we let Darlie go in there and talk to him and just kind of listen in? Maybe he's stupid enough to say something. They let Darlie go in there. And she don't even barely get her butt on the chair. And he says, don't let them get in my truck. Do not let them get in my truck. Whatever you do, don't let them in my truck. And she's like, what? He's like, don't let them in my truck. We're still on Friday here, right? So they're arresting him for obstruction of justice and getting ready to bug his ass in. Poor Kaitlin. They still don't know where she is. They don't know she's dead. They don't know she's alive. But they know that Mark is shady as shit. By this time, because of all the lying he did, the police have obtained a search warrant for his house and his truck. And his truck has been impounded and is on its way to the Louisiana State Crime Lab. This whole time, they have never stopped searching for Kaitlin. They have called in Texas EquiSearch, who is, it's like a nonprofit that does nothing but search for missing people on horses. But they also had, like, you know, police searching, and then they had, like, volunteers from the community searching. So they had people on 4-wheelers, on horses, in 4-wheel drive trucks, because the terrain, y'all, it's by the bayou, okay? It's by the river. It's by the Amite River. So the terrain is not something you can just, you get to have some 4-wheel drive. And then they have other volunteers that are, like, in a boat in the river, you know, because there's so many little inlets and outlets and stuff in the river. So the volunteers everybody is looking for her because they don't know, like, is she alive? They don't know if she's alive or not. But just in case something has happened to her, they have called in a cadaver dog. The cadaver dog and his handler get to Mark Lewis's house Right at the same time, they're getting there to serve the search warrant. The cops are like, perfect timing. We're just going to stand in the doorway and let you do your thing. That way, you know, we're not in here trying to get evidence or whatever and we mess up like the scent or something. The handler goes in there with the dog, and, you know, the cops are just watching from the doorway, and the dog, you know, the handler's like, do your thing, or whatever the command is. I'm sure it's not do your thing, but do your thing. And the dog immediately runs over to the dryer and sits down, which that's an alert, which means that the dog has smelled a decomposition at the dryer. His handler gives him some lovin's and gives him a treat, and he's like, okay, you know, go again. And the dog goes straight to the guest bedroom and sits down. Another alert for decomposition. Now, the cops know. They know she's not alive anymore. She's not alive. That's why he was washing this comforter. Now they have that information. After they finish the search warrant, and I mean, this is all on Saturday, right? The truck's at the crime lab being processed. The stuff that they got from his house is at the crime lab being processed. All of the volunteers and the professional people, they're still searching for Kaitlin. While all of this is going on, the detectives are also pulling Kaitlin's phone records and talking to neighbors and just kind of creating a profile on Mark Lewis and, you know, learning what a shitbag he is. They talked to Mark's wife again, and they find out that the scratches that he had on his face, he also had them on his arms, which they noticed Friday night when they interrogated him, and they took pictures and everything. But they just want to talk to his wife again and say, like, what's the deal with the scratches and stuff? She's like, I don't know. She said, I didn't get a chance to ask him about that. And they were like, well, how long have they been there? She's like, I didn't see him until he came home Friday night, like 7 o'clock. They were like, well, so they weren't there when you left for work in the morning? She was like, no, he was fine. So it had to have happened sometime today. And they're like, okay. All right, gotcha. On the search goes, and Saturday turns into Sunday, and just after dark on Sunday, February 3rd, 2007, the detectives get a call, and they're like, hey, come to this spot on the river. We found a body. They get there, and it was 2 volunteers searching in their boat, just out of the goodness of their heart. They found a body, and they didn't touch it or anything. They just immediately called the police. The police got there, and they pulled the body out of the water, and when they got the body out, they immediately identified it as Kaitlin. Like, she was still in her school uniform and everything. Now, Mark Lewis is the prime suspect in the murder of Kaitlin Aydell. They scheduled the autopsy for Monday, but, you know, before all that happens, they have an arrest warrant out for Mark Lewis for murder. And since he had been arrested on Friday for obstruction of justice, he was due to see the judge on Monday for a bond hearing, because that's how it works. Well, at the bond hearing on Monday, he goes in front of the judge to find out what his bond is, and then the judge looks down and he sees that there's now an arrest warrant for murder for Mark Lewis. And he's like, no, sir. No bond. Back to jail he goes. At the autopsy, which was on Monday as well, they confirmed that she had her school uniform on, and, you know, it was all intact except for the pants were unzipped. But the autopsy was able to confirm that there was no SA, but the cause of death was strangulation. Mark's truck at the crime lab, being processed. They're going through it with a fine-tooth comb. They find some blood, some blonde hair, which Kaitlin was blonde, and a ruler, like a school ruler, with the initials KK on them, which KK was Kaitlin's nickname. That's what her friends and her mom called her, was KK. About a week after the autopsy, Miss Danette, her mom, had Kaitlin's wake and her funeral, and there was pink everywhere because pink was Kaitlin's favorite color. So they had like pink shirts and pink ribbons and pink balloons and just pink everything. And there were so many people because, you know, it was such a close-knit community. In addition to that, people came out just like in droves, just wanting to raise money, just to help Miss Danette, they just came together as a community. And they had a bass tournament to raise money. They sold plate lunches to raise money, like jambalaya plates, spaghetti plates. And you know what Miss Danette did with that money? She created 2 scholarships for French Settlement High School students, which is where Kaitlin went to school. And the scholarships were to be given to the most improved basketball player and the most improved softball player, because those were the 2 sports that Kaitlin enjoyed playing. Meanwhile, Mark Lewis is rotting in jail, hopefully getting his butthole split wide open on a daily basis, because that's what needs to happen. He ended up being charged with 2nd-degree murder, and I feel like I need to tell y'all that in Louisiana, if you're charged with 2nd-degree murder, it's automatically life without parole. The reason that they didn't charge him with 1st-degree murder and seek the death penalty was because most of the evidence they had was circumstantial. They didn't have anybody that could actually say, I physically saw them with my eyeballs together. So they didn't have witnesses that could actually physically put them, Mark and Kaitlin, together. The evidence they had was circumstantial, like, you know, her hair, her blood, the cadaver dog, all his lies, Craig Seminoe, stuff like that. So they went for 2nd-degree murder because you only get 1 shot. You know, the double jeopardy thing, you get 1 shot. You better make it count. I don't know if it's because Mark was in jail or not, but there were witnesses just coming out left and right, like, or ready to talk. Like, I got some stuff to tell you about the depravity of this shitbag. We'll get more into what these witnesses had to say when I tell y'all about the trial. Because Mark Lewis he is a waste of oxygen. On to the trial. The trial starts almost exactly 1 year after her body was found. Scott Perilou, prosecutor, Scott Perilou is the DA, which I think he's still the DA today. And then Charlotte Aydell was the ADA. And I think she went on, I think she's a judge now. And then on the defense, Mark's defense attorney's name was Sean McKee. So those are the 2. The jury was composed of 8 women, 4 men, and then 2 alternates. 1 was a woman, 1 was a man. Every day that they were in court, so every day that there was a court proceeding, every day of the trial, people packed the courthouse wearing pink shirts with Kaitlin's face on them to show their support. Charlotte is going to open for the prosecution, and she tells the jury just what a piece of garbage Mark Lewis is. And I hate this, but she's not allowed to tell him about, remember when he kidnapped the girl from the mall and she got away by pulling in front of that truck? She wasn't allowed to bring that up. The jury didn't know about any of that because that wasn't allowed in court for them to talk about that. But she just goes on to lay out her case. She didn't lay it out in detail. She just basically tells the jury, like, the evidence is going to speak for itself, and you're not even going to have a question that Mark Lewis killed her. It won't even be a question, so, you know, we'll get to it. I got plenty of witnesses. Mark Lewis's defense attorney then gets up and gives his opening statement, and he says, no, my client's innocent. The cops got tunnel vision. They focused right on him, didn't even look at anybody else. No, they got it wrong. And y'all are gonna see they got it wrong. That was basically his whole opening statement, was nah, they just didn't look at anybody else, just looked at Mark, so they got it wrong. After the prosecutor and the defense finish their opening statements, the prosecutor starts calling witnesses. First up is Miss Danette, Kaitlin's mom, and they basically just established, like, Kaitlin was your daughter, and y'all were very close, and it was her routine to call you every day when she got, you know, off of the bus. After Miss Danette came the bus driver, and the bus driver said, yes, I dropped her off at her house after school around 3 o'clock. She was there. After the bus driver was the neighbor that Miss Danette had go check on Kaitlin when she called her and she didn't answer. After the first time she had talked to her, she had that neighbor go over, and the neighbor was like, okay, I see her stuff, but she's not here. That neighbor. Next was Kaitlin's best friend. That had to be so hard for her. So hard for her. And the best friend said that Kaitlin called her right after 3 o'clock, so it had to have been right after she got home, probably right after she talked to her mom, probably called her mama first, and then she called her best friend. And her best friend was right in the middle of doing something. She's like, I'm going to call you back in just a minute. And Kaitlin said, okay. And her friend said when she called her back, it was right at 4 o'clock, but Kaitlin didn't answer. So at this point in time in the trial, the prosecutor, is laying her case out, and she's laying it out like this. Established by phone records, they know that Kaitlin got off the bus, and by the bus driver. Kaitlin got off the bus, she called her mama, she called her best friend. We know that happened. She then calls to the stand an employee from EATEL. That's EATEL. It's like a cable company, like TV cable, but they sell phone plans for dirt cheap. So if you buy like a cable package, you can get a home phone for like $9 a month. The EATEL representative was able to confirm that the last activity on Kaitlin's phone was an incoming call at 3:06 p.m. from, wait for it, Mark Lewis's residence. The detectives that were working on the case had to testify, and they testified to the fact that when they first talked to Mark Lewis and asked him about the scratches on his face, you know, he told them that it had been a trailer hitch, and also they told the jury about him washing the comforter and then asking his wife if he ever washed clothes for any reason or did laundry for any reason at all, and she said no. Don't forget, the detectives also testified about Craig Semino letting them know that Mark tore out his driveway at like 4:40, you know, like a demon was chasing him and he almost hit the ditch. The detectives testify about the scratches on his face. They had taken pictures. They had talked to Darley about it. They had talked to Craig about it. 2 different stories, plus what Mark, what Mark had told them. So they know that was a lie anyway. And they had taken pictures during the interrogation, and prosecution had blown the pictures up really big so the jury could see. And they figured out what the scratches were really from. They got a look at it, and they were looking at it with the detectives, and they're like, what can this be from? Like, it's not from her finger. It's like not fingernail scratches. So what is it from? It's like, it's definitely not, he didn't get in a fight. It's definitely not defensive wounds like fingernail scratches like you would think it would be. And they ended up realizing that where Kaitlin's body was found, it was up in some brush under an embankment, in the river. And in that embankment was a huge briar patch. And if y'all don't know what briar patches are, they have like zillions of thorns in them. And I'll put a picture up just in case y'all don't know what they look like. So I'm sure they tore his ass up from head to toe when he was trying to hurry and hide her body under that embankment. When it comes time for the defense to cross-examine the detectives, he's like, y'all had tunnel vision, and they're like, yeah, we did, because he was guilty. Everything he did was guilty. Had there been another person, we would have checked them out too, but everything pointed to Mark Lewis, and he was lying. So yeah, we'll give it to you. We had tunnel vision on him because he's the person that all the evidence pointed to. Plus the fact that his own best friend let them know that he was asking for an alibi. There was not another man out there asking for an alibi for the time that Kaitlin went missing. It was just Mark Lewis. The detectives also testified about getting their search warrant and processing his truck, like sending his truck to the lab to be processed, and the cadaver dogs, and grabbing his home computer, and just basically how they undertook that search warrant and the things that they gathered from it. The assistant coroner got on the stand next, and he testified that during the autopsy, Kaitlin had on her school uniform and also two separate jackets. Everything was like in place where it was supposed to be, except for her pants were unzipped. Patrick Lane was next on the stand. Patrick's title is Chief Examiner of Firearms, and he's also the most senior lab technician. He's been doing this for a long time. He's the one that you want on your CSI team. Like, if I'm getting murdered, I'm gonna leave a note. Hey, murderer, could you leave a note, Patrick Lane, please? Okay. That good. Patrick gets on the stand, and he's talking to Sean McKee, the defense attorney. And he's telling Sean McKee about the blood droplets found in the back of Mark Lewis's truck. They found blood droplets, blonde hair, and a roll. While Patrick is attempting to tell this defense attorney, Sean McKee, about these blood droplets that they found in the back of Mark's truck, the defense attorney is trying to discredit him, and Patrick's like, would you like me to explain it to you? The defense attorney, in very sarcastically, is like, I don't know, would I? Basically, Patrick Lane proceeds to rip him a new asshole. Like, just with facts, not in a literal, like, I'm mad at you way, just making him look like a complete idiot with facts. You know, the best way to do it. Patrick says, okay, well, I'll explain it to you. I wrote this down. He said, and I quote, the blood and the hair were found low on the seat, and in my experience, this is consistent with the body being dragged from the vehicle. And the reason there's blood when someone is strangled to death is because when you crush someone's neck, you actually break the blood vessels inside of their neck, and it comes out in the form of spittle. So when they're being strangled, they're choking on that. And as they're choking, they're spitting out blood. That's where the blood comes from. For the hair being found in the truck, Kaitlin had long blonde hair, and when he's strangling her, murderers don't normally like, let me get that hair out of the way so I'm stringing you real good. No, he's just strangling her, and some hair gets caught up, and boom, hair in the truck, you know, because I shed probably more than my dogs do. So if somebody was to strangle me, they're gonna have hair everywhere. So that's how the hair got in there. Next up is the computer expert from the crime lab. He's the one that went through Mark Lewis's home computer. I feel sorry for him. So the night before Kaitlin disappeared, someone in the Lewis residence, Mark, was looking at Kaitlin's MySpace profile. And then the next day was when the next activity on the computer was. And it was all XXX videos. I think that's what I can say on YouTube. I can't say the P word. The whole next day was all XXX X-rated movies for Mark Lewis all day long until 2 p.m. In the closing arguments, defense attorney Sean McKee, his closing argument, he told the jury the cops got it all wrong. They had tunnel vision. They never looked at anybody else. You'll see it's just circumstantial evidence. You know, it'll be reasonable doubt, no problem. You know, they could have put anybody on the stand, and just because he was charged with, you know, killing an innocent girl, anybody's gonna look at him like he's just an evil man. And that's that. That was his closing argument. Really, Sean McKee, that's what you got? That's what you got. Fuck your side. Weak ass side. Charlotte brought it. Prosecution brought it. Charlotte closes with just kind of a summary of, you know, everything. And then she goes on to say, go back, deliberate, and when you come back out and you find him guilty, and she points to Mark Lewis, she's like, he's not even going to be surprised because he knows he's the murderer. The judge then gives the jury their instructions and what they can find him guilty of and send them back to do their deliberating. Everybody is now in the courtroom, pins and needles, waiting for that jury to come back to see what they say. How cool is this, what I'm about to tell you? Well, you don't know how cool it is till I tell you. Remember back in 1993 when I told you to keep that, can I say prostitute on here? I just did, so we're going to go with it. Remember when I told you to keep her in mind? The one, she was addicted to crack, and she paid for her habit by doing that, and she was going to meet the guy at the Mormon church in Denham. That one. Turns out her name is Janet Benoit. Every day that the jury went out for deliberations for Mark Lewis on Kaitlin Aydell's murder, They got a hit in their DNA database. Remember, she had the strands of his hair. They got a hit on those strands of hair. It was Mark Lewis. His DNA. He's the one she was going to meet. He is the one that killed her in 1993, 2 years before he abducted the girl from the mall. You know what? Remember how they said she was shot in the back? I bet she beat his ass and was running away, and it pissed him off that he got his ass beat. So he shot her in the back 3 times. I bet she beat his bitch ass and he was mad and he shot her in the back. Back to Kaitlin's case. Took the jury 3 hours to come back and find him guilty of 2nd-degree murder. So, cops slapped the handcuffs on him. He's going to Angola. So let's fast forward a little bit. And the cops are like, okay, we're not going to get in a hurry to charge him with Janet Benoit's murder because we want to make sure that it's perfect. Like, there's no need for us to get in a hurry. He's got 1 life sentence. He ain't going nowhere. And he's going to try to appeal it 100 times. So he's going to be in Angola for a good little while. So we're going to take our time on this Janet Benoit. We're going to do it right, and we're going to get him for another one. And that's exactly what they did. A witness came forward. Mark had given him a Colt 38 special revolver. Remember, ballistics? 38 special revolver. And this guy's like, I just happen to have this in the top of my closet. Would you like it? And they're like, yes, please. So, Patrick Lane works his magic. It's a match. The gun's a match. So now they have Mark Lewis 1,000% tied to the murder of Janet Benoit. They don't stop there though. I think they want to fuck with him a little bit. I mean, I would have too. You know, if I was a cop, let's go fuck with his head a little bit. So, you know, they've got his DNA. They've got the ballistics. They go to Angola and get him in an interview room. And they're like, hey, you know Janet Benoit? He's like, nah, sure don't. I don't know who that is. So they show him a picture of her. And they're like, you know her. And he's like, never seen her before in my life. Don't know who that is. Not a clue. And they're like, okay, well, your DNA was in her hands and your gun killed her. So you're being arrested again and you're going to be charged with it. So there you go. And only after that did he admit to it.
In 2010, he shocked everyone. He confessed to another woman's murder, a 17-year-old cold case.
No, I think I knew it would come to a head sooner or later.
And y'all, hear me out. Just hear me out. I'm doing a little thinking. It's probably dangerous, but just hear me out. Just hear me out. Mark Lewis. Because I go down rabbit holes with these cases, right? And then I get to thinking about stuff. Mark Lewis kills Janet Benoit in 1993, right? Never gets caught for it until 16 years later. He abducts the girl at Cortana. She gets away, thank God. Then he kills Kaitlin Aydell. But do you really think that from, well, it would be 97 when because he got 2 years for abducting the girl. So he would have got out of jail in 97. Do you really think that he went 10 years without doing something? Y'all let me know in the comments. But I think that as sick as he is, as depraved as he is, I think this man has some murders out there or some essays out there. No telling. I think that he has other bodies out there that they don't know about. And I think that once he was presented with Janet Benoit's evidence, he just hurried up and confessed and was like, well, shit, I hope they don't find anything else. Let me confess to this one, and I'll have 2 life sentences, and they just won't worry about me anymore. And they just don't worry about me anymore. That's what I think, y'all. I'm serious. Let me know what y'all think. I think I could be wrong, but somebody that sick in the head. I mean, we're talking 1993. He kills this girl, right? We don't know what he did for the 2 years before he abducted the girl from the mall. Because had that truck not been coming down that road, she might not have escaped. $1997, he gets out of jail. I'm just saying, I don't think he went 10 years without doing something. I don't. I think there's more bodies out there that either are cold cases sitting somewhere or just have never been found and have just turned to bones and they've just never been found. So I think there's more bodies. I really do. This story does not end here, but I think this video is going to be kind of long. So I'm going to add a video as like an addendum to this. I mean, y'all have the whole story of Mark Lewis, of Screwdriver Red, of everything that he's done. Y'all have the whole story of that. But there's a program in Louisiana that allows victims' family members to meet with the offenders. And it's like a rigorous process to be able to even end up meeting. Miss Danette did it. And I do have like news footage of that. So seeing as how this video is going to be kind of long, I figure I'm just going to add it as a separate video as an addendum to this one. Because I thought y'all would find that kind of interesting. Because I'm not even surprised, but he tries to re-victimize Miss Danette, okay, after already taking her own baby girl from her. Her only child he took from her, right? And then when she goes to meet with him just to get some kind of closure, y'all are not going to believe the shit he said. So, like I said, I'm going to put that as a separate video just because I think this one's going to be too long. I never asked this, but please subscribe. I need some subscribers, y'all. We need to create a little community here. Community for the sick and twisted. Let's get it going. Share, share, share. Like, subscribe. That was horrible. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video, which will be right after this one.